your origin story. So I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier before we got in this room. So you don't have a family legacy of racing.
Yeah, so I started racing very randomly, just tried go-karting for fun with my twin sister Annie. My dad just saw like an advertisement for go-kart classes up at Sonoma Raceway. Tried it one weekend, both fell in love with it, begged our dad for a go-kart, and he has like a background in mechanical engineering, so he was familiar with like the basics of like, you know, how to work on a go-kart and everything. So he was our mechanic, and we just started going up to the track every weekend and just running laps, and it was really just kind of like a family activity, very chill. I don't think my dad ever set out for me to be a race car driver. I think it was just very much by choice. I was never like pushed into it, so it was kind of cool.
It was like a hobby, just something he wanted to start. Like probably a good opportunity for him to have, you know, like you think of throwing the baseball around the backyard. It's like then he had an opportunity, like good bonding experience.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so I think what's important for people to understand is how easy that is to do. I mean, I know it sounds really intimidating, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to pick up my kids, go to a track, get a cart, or rent a cart, or borrow somebody's, whatever it might be. I mean, it's actually not that difficult to get into. It just takes time and maybe a bit of money, depending on how far you want to go with it, right?
Exactly, yeah. I feel like I always get asked, like, how did you get started into it? I'm like, I just went to a local go-kart track. Like, I had no familiarity of, like, racing at all, knew nothing about it. So, I mean, you could start with, like, no experience. I feel like maybe it seems like you need experience to get into it because there is so many like nepo babies in the sport, and like a lot of it's like a very generational thing, like, oh, my grandpa did it or my dad did it. So I feel like maybe people think you need like some way in, but I mean, I moved to North Carolina without knowing anybody and somehow ended up here, so I feel like I somehow made it work. So
that's awesome.
We're doing okay.
You just mentioned something, a word I've never heard. Nepo babies?
Yeah, nepo baby.
I mean, I know I get what it means right away. I'm gonna write that down.
Like, word of the day, nepo baby.
He likes it. All right,
nepo baby.
Yeah.
All right, see if you can use it.
Oh, I already know. Yeah, like after this, I'll be walking around being like, "What's up, nepo baby?"
Yeah.
As you know, Joe is also an influencer on social media, TikTok.
Thanks.
Not your level, of course, but I think it's really great to see you doing all these fun things.
What are your aspirations? If you're to say like you're sitting at retirement and you're like, what is it you want to look back on have achieved?
Oh, I feel like I want to achieve so much. I would say, like, looking at my 5-year plan, I want to make it to the NASCAR Cup Series, but I feel like that's very, like, contingent on, like, you know, how, like, trucks would go, and then, like, the next level would be Xfinity, then Cup. So I feel like there's so many different variables, and I try not to, like, hold myself too much to a timeline because I feel like everyone kind of has like their own journey and such, but I would say like ideally like in a perfect world that's my 5-year plan, and I think it'd be cool to like branch out. Like there's a driver this year that tried to do the Indy 500 and Coca-Cola 600, like those two races, like two really big races. One was IndyCar, one was NASCAR. Like they're in the same weekend, so I'm like that would be kind of sick to do, like kind of just experience both worlds
on the same weekend.
Yeah, and they had to like helicopter from like one track to like literally back to back. It was crazy. But yeah, I think it'd be cool to like mix it up and like try different things and branch out. But I feel like to like make it in sport, my focus has to be on NASCAR, and like once like I reach like the level that I want to, then I think it's easier to kind of like branch out in like other directions and maybe pick up some like different like hobbies and everything like that. But
I mean, racing is like one of those, if you want to call it a career, like because it seems so much fun.
Oh, when people ask like what I do for work, like I can't say race car driver, like I never do. I'm like I just can't.
Yeah, like
I feel like it doesn't.
You have a hobby and a job all in one. Yeah,
I'm in marketing. I don't know.
Yeah,
well, you could just say I'm a driver.
I'm a driver.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you do wine tours?
Yeah,
like Uber.
Uber.
Yeah, sure.
We can go fast.
It also like comes down to like performance, backing. I also think like your branding is pretty important too.
So when you say branding, are you talking your persona, what you put out
branding.
there?
Yeah, because I feel
you seem like you're one of the most valuable brands out there in racing, right?
I try to be. I feel like I've worked really hard on that because you have to give like, I mean, you can't just put a brand on your race car and be like, okay, sick, like I'm giving them all the exposure. Realistically, like you need to give them like good ROI, and that's going to come down to like, you know, you as a brand. And social media is so massive now. Brands want to be on social media. That's where all the value is. So I think that's just kind of how it is. It's not really like TV viewers as much anymore. And
one of your hobbies is social media.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's like a hobby, but like I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
she's doing well. She's doing well.
Yeah, doing well. Yeah. I mean, but you start so like, and we'll go back a little bit to the kind of makeup tutorials that you had done, in your earlier years.
Yeah.
That was your teens, I assume.
Yeah, I was like 14 around that time, and I've always just loved social media. Always thought like the idea of creating content. Like I remember when influencers first kind of came out, and like the first kind of like YouTubers. I thought it was so cool. I'm like, that's so fun. They're like creating something, and I remember I was so nervous to like start like a YouTube channel. I was like, I'm just gonna go do it. Like, who cares? And that was kind of like when I first like dabbled in like social media, and I was very low key. Like, it wasn't like some successful channel, but I had a lot of fun like creating content, and I realized like the marketing is like so interesting to me, and like how to like market myself and like the value in that. So kind of sparked my interest in all that.
But all that like training, which you probably didn't even look at it like training, has come in really handy with you in your professional career and hobby.
Yeah, because when brands were like, oh, we want like an Instagram video or like a TikTok, like back in the day, I was like, oh, I can do this because like I used to edit like my YouTube videos for fun, and now I can kind of like utilize what I learned. So yeah, I feel like I've been like efficient at kind of like transitioning that into like actual work.
The way that I was brought up, my family being in the wine business, obviously that was exactly how it was. My dad just said, "I'll give you an opportunity if you want to do this, then that's all good. Otherwise, follow your passions." And I tried it out, started in farming, and just fell in love. But I'd been around it too. I think that like through osmosis, if your kids are even around the restaurant or even just seeing what you do, the amount of time you put in, what your love of it is, like they're going to have this immediate tie to it that may not necessarily be the path they go down, but it's definitely something where they're comfortable going down.
And you said the most important word. Like, the word you just used is like a word I use religiously of success, of learning, which is osmosis.
Yeah.
Of like, you have to be able, like in cooking, you have to learn via osmosis. You have to be able to, young chefs that are like, I want to be a badass, I want to be like you. I'm like, are you watching what I'm doing? Do you understand, like, when I put the saute pan down on the stove? Did you watch how I seasoned my fish? Did you watch how much oil I put in the pan? Like, I didn't have to teach you that. You could have watched all of that and learned without me ever quote unquote teaching you.
Yeah.
Because you can get so, and that's the one thing I try to tell my kids all the time is like, pay attention to the people around you that are successful and bank it. And if you bank it in your little tank there, then what's your chance? You're good. You don't have to be taught how to do something the same way that other people have to do, because you learn by watching. And I think that's so critical. That's my favorite word, like when it comes to learning.
That's how I think the best way. So point to your daughter as well. So the education that you can get for wine is great. And what they'll teach you now and the practical aspects of it, awesome. But the learning through osmosis and doing internships, that's, you ask anybody who has gone through one of those programs, they learn like twice as much from an internship than they did during one semester.
Period.
And I think it's probably the same with culinary, right? You can learn all the fundamentals, all the theory, but if you're not there doing it, and that's how our whole team works. I'm sure yours too.
Yep.
I mean, you did talk a little bit earlier about a lot of the top chefs in Texas or in the San Antonio area, I think you said, came out of that first restaurant you had.
Yeah.
And when I think about that, I think about the importance of not just the osmosis piece, but also work ethic being maybe for me the number one factor in success. Is where do you rate that?
Man, we were hardcore. I mean, we were hardcore, man. It was kind of the old school, like before the generational change.
Yeah, what the fuck happened?
Yeah,
we got a bunch of pansies now.
I have a very firm opinion of why. Well, I shouldn't say firm. I have my opinion. It was the internet. All right, so hear me out. When I went to San Francisco, I can remember, this was 1999, right? I remember I was at the California Culinary Academy. I was up in the library. And listen, it was all, at that point in time, everything was about cookbooks. It was about magazines. You had to actually read, right? Like, honestly, you had to read what you were learning. There was no such, I mean, the internet was in its very beginning stages. I can remember where I was sitting on a couch in my library at culinary school when somebody told me about Google. I can remember somebody's like, hey, have you heard of Google? I'm like, no, what's Google? They're like, oh, it's really cool. There's a button you can actually hit and it might still have it. I don't know if it has or not, but it has a button that's like, it's like, are you lucky enough to get it right with just one response, or
Feeling
do you
lucky.
want? What was it?
What was it?
Feeling lucky.
Are you feeling
Feeling lucky.
Are you feeling lucky? Do you just want the one post that's going to tell you what you want,
I
or do you
remember
want to
that,
see
yeah.
the whole internet? Right.
Yeah.
And I read so much cookbooks and collected cookbooks and food magazines. Like I remember, and this was when I was in San Francisco. I like saw something like a post in the library. It's like somebody's giving away their entire collection of Bon Appetit magazines for free. Like they were moving and they didn't want to take them. I'm like, fuck, I'll take them. I had no idea what I was getting. I mean, it was like 80 cases of. My wife was like, what the fuck are we doing with all of these magazines?
Did you read them all?
I went through them,
Yeah.
Like, but once you so I had a database of, and still to this day, like you can give me a mystery box, I'll crush it. Like I don't give a fuck what you put on the table. I can cook you a dish with it.
My favorite
like
thing to do.
But
Yeah.
if you were to give young chefs in today's marketplace a mystery box, they don't know what to do with it because they didn't build a database prior to the internet, right? So now you have the difference of what is a chef in today's market? Is a chef a restaurateur, or is it at a hotel, or is it a TikTok chef, or is it an Instagram chef? Like where, and by the way, there are very successful, very, very financially successful chefs that have never owned their own restaurant. They've never really cooked professionally, and maybe they are doing really cool shit. But I think where we're talking about like where did it go wrong? I don't know if it goes wrong. It's like I'm a little pessimistic about the future of the restaurant industry when it comes to high-end fine dining, because, and I truly hope that the Bear is going to bring people back to it.
Yeah.
Because the Bear is teaching you like, hey, it's hardcore to learn how to cook like this. Like it's not easy. You don't get it overnight, and you're certainly not going to get it 40 hours a week. And I think it's two components. The internet screwed it up, and the idea of like taking away free stages.
So with that's been like, that's a thing? They just went away?
I think it's it's gone away. And the argument was, and I don't disagree, that it's a, what's the right term to use here?
Like there's no
It's
stage.
a privilege.
It's a privilege,
It's
yeah.
a privilege.
But there's
I
no
would also-
stage police.
I think in today's marketplace, very few, if any, anywhere in the world are doing free stages anymore.
Wow. And that was a place to incubate and learn. I mean,
I would put it this way. Like, I know when I worked at Stars in San Francisco, I worked, I might be scheduled, let's call it I was scheduled 4 to 11. All right. I was there every day at 1 o'clock. Off the clock.
free.
Period. Every fucking day. Every fucking week.
For how long?
Every fucking month. 18 months at least.
While you were going through culinary school.
Yeah. Because I knew I was investing in myself.
Yeah.
The argument is I was investing in myself. I'm getting 3 hours of knowledge that I'm getting for free.
Yeah.
And in today's marketplace, it would be like, oh, they're taking advantage of you. Or, oh, why would you work for free? Why would you do that for them? I'm like, I didn't do it for them. I was selfish. I didn't do it for them. I didn't do it for the restaurant. I did it for me. I wanted to get in there and learn, hey, chef, man, I want to learn that technique. Can I help prep that? Like, I want to learn that. And they taught me for free. So it cost me whatever the time shit was, probably $10 an hour in San Francisco, 99. But like, so it cost me $30 a day to get a lifetime of experience of learning. And then once you do that over a period of time, the chef's like, hey, this chef really wants to learn, man. Let's take him under our wing here, and we can show him a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right. And so
you earn your way up.
And stages have gone
Shows you
away
got
because people are like, oh, well, you got to get paid overtime, and I get it. I get the idea. Are there certain people, the bad apples ruin it for everybody, right? Like the people that really did take advantage. But like Michelin 3-star restaurants up until 2015, and I'm being generous, it might be 2018, they didn't survive without stages, right? Like if you want, I remember I came to the French Laundry, and one of the questions you have written down, I'll tell you about it. But I can remember I was sitting at Bistro Gianti.
Love that place.
Having dinner by myself. I don't even remember I was out here.
Yeah.
And I wasn't here to stage or anything. And there's two guys sitting at the bar. I'm like, we start talking. I'm like, hey guys, what are y'all doing? They're like, oh, we're here to stage at the French Laundry. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, what's going on? They're like, they're full on stages. I'm like, you came out here to work for free, and they told you no, they're like, yeah, there was too many people that were already.
Wow.
So like, Stage has built 3 Michelin star restaurants, right, all across the world, not just here. I don't frown upon it. I think that people that were willing to work for free were willing to sacrifice, and they did sacrifice to learn.
So the Stage police would be the internet in a way.
No, I think the Stage police.
Well, I guess what I'm. I guess what I'm thinking about is I'm trying to like correlate the points you were making, earlier about kind of what happened to this next generation and wanting to invest in yourself, the expectation of something to come at you,
a flip in the script of like, oh, I'm being taken advantage of.
Yes, yeah.
Versus being like, I'm investing in myself. And I think that's in any life, in any business, at any time in human history. You can look at yourself. Am I being taken advantage of, or am I investing in myself? And I get it. There are certainly been a lot of people in life that have been taken advantage of, and especially in stages. I mean, listen, stages aren't treated with a whole lot of respect.
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't get paid. You work your ass off, and they treat you like shit.
Jardinaire's closed, right? Jardinaire's closed, right?
I believe, yeah.
I mean, my first job at Jardinaire, I had a 4-year college degree from Texas Tech, and my first real job was at Jardinaire as a prep cook. And in my mind, I was like, hey, man, I want to start at the very bottom. I want to learn everything. And like the third day, I was like, I don't fucking need to start down here. Okay, like.
Was that like dishes or?
No. It was like worse. Like, and I don't mean worse in like a bad way. It was like the amount of pride and sacrifice that they put in the quality of their food was something I had never seen, but it didn't correlate to me personally. Like, so like they had a dish that had arugula on it, right? Well, every single piece of arugula in a case of arugula, the stem had to be picked off. So, like, for 2 hours every day, because I'm the lowest guy on the totem pole, I'm taking the stem off of a piece of lettuce. Okay, do you know how many fucking pieces of lettuce are in a case of arugula? Like, you're talking, like, thousands.
Yeah.
And so you're just picking off the stems. Ba, 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 ba. So when you get, like, now we're talking about the highest end quality restaurants in the world, the Michelin star restaurants. Stages, you're not on the line cooking, man. You're a lapdog.
You're doing the grunt work.
You're a grunt.
Yeah.
But you're learning via osmosis.
Yeah.
You're watching, like, as you're picking your stems out there, I'm paying attention. And I remember the pastry chef. I wish I could fucking remember his name, because I wouldn't mind giving him a visit in today's world. But
with a smile on your face or with a clenched fist? Which one?
An absolute smile on my face.
Okay.
Okay. So, like, I was in charge of the stock, right? And so every day I was like, I'd put stock on and I'd have to skim the stock, right? And I took a lot of pride in it. I was like, no fat, skimming it. I mean, I thought I was being a badass motherfucker. But like, to get to the stock pot, I had to go through his pastry kitchen to do it. And finally one day he's like, what the fuck are you doing? I go, what do you mean, man? He goes, what the fuck are you doing back here, man? It's fucking stock. I'm like, I'm supposed to skim the stock. He's like, fucking come back in 3 hours and skim the stock. Like, I thought I was doing something good, but I was annoying another. It was just a weird dynamic, right? And not wrong or different. I mean, they had super high qualities, but like, I was in his zone, and he was like, hey. And in a way, he was trying to teach me a lesson. He's like, bro, you don't have to skim the stock every 15 minutes, right? Like, it's fine. Like, and so, but every kitchen is so different, and so, in today's world, we need young cooks to read and not watch, because I think they have to build a database of dishes and ingredients and I don't know cooks. I'm telling you, young cooks don't buy cookbooks anymore. They don't. They have the internet. And
I
think
love cookbooks still.
And I think it prevents them from building a catalog that they can then build off of instinctually, right? So that's just a little drop that knowledge to the young cooks out there.
Yeah, I think that, the white tablecloth, the Michelin star, I think that whole thing, just like we're seeing in wine right now, I think we're seeing it kind of like culture-wide, that there's a lack of appreciation for the effort put into a product. There's an assumption that every product they're buying, whether it's like a shitty shirt out of Target, they're like, oh yeah, this is nice.
Yeah.
There's the assumption that it's quality, but it's all the marketing. And at some point, I think that luster of marketing wears off, and then you actually appreciate what is behind the product.
Period.
And so I think that will come back. I already feel it starting to kind of like wind up, but I think I don't know, it's like these 20-something to 30-year-olds. No offense to anybody out there this age, but I do agree with you. The internet came along, and I think that age group was like, I can be an influencer. I can make my life just off of this fucking screen. And boy, were they wrong. Yeah. And now they're realizing it. And I think that now we're all teaching the younger generation just below them what it actually is. And so I think that we're starting to see the early 20s start to kind of take that in and be like, oh yeah, quality actually means something. There's something that is behind the quality. If there's nothing behind that quality, then it's not really a special product, right? Yeah. And I think that goes for any product. It could be a vehicle, wine, restaurant, whatever.
So yeah, I am a wellness expert. I run my coaching practice now for 15 years, Your Healthiest You, 2-time best-selling author, and 2-time mama of 2 little girls, 8-year-old Navy and 3-year-old Dover. And I do speaking, lead retreats, travel around the world, helping people basically live the shit out of their lives in whatever way they need that in that moment.
That is awesome. I mean, how did you get into this?
Was that a better intro than you would have given?
That was a way better intro than I would have given. I was trying to like get the rap sheet because you have accomplished a lot.
Thank you.
In this space. And so it's
my
like,
booty off. Yeah. I am tired. Let me just say right now, though, I am tired. And I'm really appreciative of myself in my 20s and 30s because I did work so hard that now in my 40s recently, I'm having a moment of like, what am I trying to prove? Chill a little.
Yeah.
Like just chill a little. And it's great because I feel a little bit more spaciousness in my life where I can breathe and actually practice what I'm teaching on an even deeper and bigger level.
I think that in itself, that note of like, work your ass off when you're young, don't party through your 20s, and then enjoy. Well, hold on.
Wait, what are you?
No, so you did party through your 20s.
Oh my God.
But you worked your ass off?
But I could do both. That's the thing of your 20s and 30s.
We're learning how to balance it.
You can do both. You have the energy for that, and you should like max it out. Burn the candle at both ends a little bit until you're like, okay, I'm ready to bring this a little bit more into balance in new ways, in new chapters of your life.
Yeah, it's about balance, and I think that's something that the youth really could benefit from, like getting some experience in. But you're out there educating. And so your demographic, if you were to call it a demographic, like what are you typically working with?
Oh, that's cool. So most of my clients, I say, are in their 30s and 40s, people that I do one-on-one deeper work with. But in my group programs, it's everyone from 20s to 60s because I think in your 20s, like you're looking to have someone that you can look up to. Like, can I have kids and a life where, I'm more in my day-to-day routine, but still be myself and still have a good time. And I hope to embody that, you can have fun, you can make your life look like your own. And then women who are in their like 50s and 60s are like, I'm very much like a you can sit with me girl. And like, if there's something that I'm wearing in fashion that you're like, that's cool. I'm like, well, here's how you can wear that too. And so even though their focus is more in the middle, like 20s to 60s, everyone, like the message is really like enjoying your life and being in your body, grounding down, and then living up and big and bright.
Is there a different approach between how you coach men and women?
I've coached mostly women, I would say for sure, but I've had men in my group programs and men absolutely purchasing my books. What I say with men is you just have to start simpler and more basic. I feel like women are really good for the most part at multitasking, stacking habits, bringing in those little micro moments where they can do more, be more, live more. Men do better when they are just focused at one thing. So for my husband, for example, it's like his biggest reminder really is water. And that is going to be the biggest way that I can coach him is just how was your water intake today? Are you dehydrated? And, going to feel really crappy later. And so once that happens, did you go outside today? Did you walk around the block or were you just focused at your desk the whole day? So simpler.
That checks out. I mean, and I think that's just
and these are generalizations, of course.
Yeah, but stereotypes are there for a reason in many cases.
Mostly true.
And that one checks out. I mean, that's I'm definitely a single task kind of guy. Like,
exactly.
And you're driven when you have that single task, but yeah, you also miss out on the ability to be like, just into everything and into yourself.
Yeah, I'd rather you focus on one thing and be successful in achieving that than saying, I'm going to do all these different things and not doing any of it. And then you get discouraged and you don't build that momentum. The reason I love meditation is because I feel like I'm in myself, my own world, my own body. And it's nice to spend time there. We spend so much time giving to others, showing up for others, producing, doing, growing, building, living. And when I'm in my own meditation, whether it's 2 minutes or 20 minutes, like that time's just for me with me. And I can be like, hey, hi, you're doing a good job. It's nice to spend a minute here. So I define meditation as really any mindful, intentional moment. That's different than how other meditation teachers define it. And so I feel like if you can just have a mindful moment, sometimes that can be listening to a song that makes you feel thoughtful, introspective in your body, and you're just dedicating it to say, during this song, I'm going to focus on my breathing and focus on just being here. That can be a meditation. So you can do that on the way to work. You can do that on the subway. You can bring your kids into that and do it when you're at drop-off. You know, there's so many ways. I also define meditation as when in the morning, sometimes I just have a moment to take 3 deep breaths before I go into the chaos of everything. So what that looks like is I just sit up in bed, I place a hand over heart, I'm like, good morning, self, and I'm just, I do that 3 times, and I'm like, oh, if that's the only meditation I got in, you could just felt the shift even just from 1 deep breath. Like that is super, super powerful. And then in my work, in my practice, in my professional keynote speaking, I like to make meditation fun. I'm a huge music freak. We go to Coachella every year. I've been to over 100 Fish shows, if anybody knows what that is. We're constantly...
Our Fish fans out there.
Fish fans. I'm actually going to be doing some wellness content for some upcoming Fish shows, so it's all coming together. But I like to incorporate that in the work. Like, for example, Jai Wolf is an artist I really love and is a DJ and makes these really powerful songs. And like, can I listen to a Jai Wolf song and just be in my breath and be in my body and in my life? And again, kind of focusing around that food philosophy that I was sharing earlier. If I can focus my mind during these meditation moments on being in my body, being in my breath, it's less about, it takes the pressure off of rather of, am I thinking about things? I've completely shifted it then to I'm breathing, I'm here, I'm present, as opposed to I'm thinking about this, oh, that's not right. It really like separates it from like a task or a to-do that you're likely may fail at or feel frustrated about into something that is for everyone and is so doable and has so many different forms and versions.
I'd like to get a little bit into the origin story to start, because I think there's a lot of people that don't know how, like, what route do you get into Broadway? And I'm sure there are so many different routes you can go too, because you're in essence you're an actor. You could go down the Hollywood path. You could go down the Broadway path. So bring us back to young Alan. When did you get first inspired?
I've started out as a singer. I don't know how far I should go into the story because those who are listening were there. I was in the boy group, a la New Edition.
You're talking pop music.
Pop music. I was going to be a vocalist. And we did a show called Putting on the Hits. I don't know if you remember, it's an old reality show way back in the day. And from there, people wanted to know if we can sing, and we actually did sing. Things happened, and my mother was like, yeah, you're not doing that. And so she made me... She didn't want me to go into music, or she didn't want me to go into entertainment outside of her. You go to school, you go to college, and then you decide then you're an adult in her mind. She then moved me from New Jersey to Maryland, and I thought she just threw my career away. And Maryland had a sort of a nice theater community, a very small theater community, not as big as Chicago, but very small and intimate, and I fell in love with acting. And so from there, I realized, okay, I can do this. And actually, I wind up seeing the musical, The Wiz, with Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, Richard Pryor, and realized, I can make a living out of this. This is great. So I went to school. I wound up getting scholarships to go to school for acting and music. I got kicked out of my music program because...
Can we ask why?
Acting wanted you to... With that scholarship, you had to do all of their shows, which included musicals. Beginning music degree, you have to do classical music and not sing anything else. Well, you both are paying me. How do I bridge this gap? I'm not really interested in singing in German, and I'm just not interested. And then for someone to tell me,
kind of like opera,
correct?
Yeah.
And then you're telling me I have to take a pause. A child, but being young, you don't understand what the benefit of the pause is going to bring me, right? I just feel like you're stopping me from doing something, and so the quick choice was to go to theater. And then I still didn't really think about Broadway. I saw the movie musical, and then back then you had The Wiz, you had Grease, you had Xanadu, God forbid, but there was something in the popular world that I said, oh, well, I can sing, but I also love to act. But I wasn't ready to go to New York. And then I decided to go to grad school, but I also loved LA, so I went out to Irvine, University of California at Irvine, figured it would get me to the West Coast, and I can see what that's like. And near the end of my grad school, my last year is when I discovered a friend made me go and audition for Rent. And back then you had to stand in a long line and they would type you out like, yep, you're good. Nope, don't like you. Yep, you're good. So before you even open your mouth.
Oh.
They wanted raw talent. They wanted people. I would take my resume, my school resume, and cut all the things I did in it. And I took a picture of my driver's license and made that my headshot, blew it up at Kinko's as my headshot. Because they wanted raw talent. They wanted someone who doesn't do this per se for Rent. They typed me in. I went and sang with my resume, my blown up driver's license headshot. About 6 auditions is when I wound up getting the job, and I had to ask my school if I could leave. Now my grad school is really like, and especially it's for classical acting like Shakespeare, Moliere, Ibsen. They wanted acting. So to say I'm going to go do a Broadway musical, they were not really having it, but I kind of explained to them, it's my 3rd year. This is the year you're actually looking for a job. I think we have like workshops and seminars with agents and casting directors. We're meeting all these people, but I now have a job. Why would I sit and wait for another couple of months for you to put me in front of a room for people to hire me when someone's hiring me now? And so they said, go ahead, write your dissertation on the road, and you can go. And so that's how I actually started.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and never stopped with musical theater.
So is there a little bit of competition there, like where maybe the more classic theater, like Shakespeare, looks at Broadway as being a lesser art form? Like, and I would imagine Broadway would probably look at that and go like, that's not talent. They're just talking. They're not singing and dancing.
Yes.
Like,
I think each medium and each discipline has their own sort of idea of what's considered better and what's considered worse, or what considers high class and not. But I think the lines are being blurred. It's no different than, we were talking before how back in the day you would never see a movie star on TV.
Yeah.
TV always wanted to be a movie star.
Yeah.
You would never see TV people really on Broadway. It usually the TV people you're watching came from Broadway, but you would never see them go the other way. And so now the lines are getting blurred. Where I went to school, Shakespeare acting was the pinnacle. That was the top. But the problem was there's no money in it.
Was there ever? No. It's just you got to be passionate as hell for it. That's it.
You have to be passionate.
That's too bad.
But in a way, there's a little security. Back in the day, regional theaters would hire, let's say, 12 people in their company. And if they're doing 8 shows, all 12 people will be in that company. Sometimes you're a principal. Sometimes you're the townsperson ensemble. Sometimes that's how the old school way of doing it. So in a way, you can go to a regional theater in Rochester, New York, and you're employed for 7-8 months out of the year. That's not how we do things anymore.
Yeah.
We also will, shows would tour. I'm not going to say regional theater is dead because they've been saying that forever, but going to one spot, only theater in Maryland, for example, they may have 5 shows in their season, but they're not definitely using the same actors anymore. Maybe 2. They may decide you can do this one, and then 3 months later you can come and do another one. But back in the day, they even had a residence where you would live in the old barn that was their sort of housing for actors, and you would do their season. So I feel like Shakespeare, well, I love it. most of your jobs came out of the Shakespeare festivals, which were in the summer.
Yeah.
Alabama Shakespeare, Utah Shakespeare, Colorado Shakespeare.
Yeah, the one in Oregon. And,
Oregon.
Yeah.
They're
that's a big one.
big.
Yeah, they're big.
And prestigious,
Yeah. But seasonal.
but I cannot pay a mortgage on.
We got to meet a gentleman while we were in New York a couple weeks back, and he was, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he was an opera singer.
Yes.
And, like, obviously, he sang a little for us. Beautiful voice. And but he works at a private club.
Yes.
Because what you're talking about. Like, so he's following his passion.
Yes.
But he's not able to actually make a true living, at least one that will sustain you living in a place like as expensive as New York.
Sure.
And so is that, would you say out of the performing arts overall, include ballet and Broadway, what is the best paying through the gamut of entry level to stardom?
That's a hard one because it also depends on what level you are in it. But I would say clearly movies, TV.
Oh, besides movie and TV, that's because they got all the ads and crap like that.
Sure, but I'm saying, but that's where the money comes from. So
those guys.
When you do ballet and dance companies and opera and theater, that's not necessarily Broadway, not commercial theater.
Yeah,
that takes theater lovers, opera lovers, dance concert lovers to support them, donations. So that's a whole nother thing. This is where America fails, and they do not support the arts the way other countries do.
I completely agree with that.
So therefore, you rely on those who love it to support it. So therefore, you can have a wonderful opera singer who has to supplement their income somewhere else just because you can't get at the Met. And when you get at the Met, they're paying someone like, their
Andrea Bocelli
leads.
or something.
I mean, when I heard that Luciano Pavarotti made $1 million a concert, I didn't understand how you can even find that money with the art. Like, putting my producer hat on, I'm going, how? But some people were making that kind of money. I mean, He clearly was the top, but there's only so many seats in the theater. And of course, there are thousands of dollars of tickets, but how do you pay one person $1 million? Well, when it also comes to, you have a couple of principals under him, and then you have the ensemble, and then you have even extras in opera where you're like, I've only hired you to fill the stage. You're going to wear one costume, and I pay you $35. I'm not here to say which is better, but in that sense, you've given all the money somewhere else, and so therefore some of these people can't make a living and consistently, and that's a little sad. But I feel like the United States does not fund their arts as they should, and to me, artistry is around us everywhere. You cannot, if you like sports, you like art. Someone designed those costumes, that stadium, the colors, everything you see has an artist. Either that's an architect or a scenic designer, everywhere there is art. And so I feel like it's mainly in Europe they understand that. Here in the States, it's a little harder to get people who think, well, I don't like going to see the theater, so I don't like art. Yeah, but when you take your wife on a vacation, or when you take your husband, or wherever you go, or whatever you see has an artist touching it somehow. This is artistry, how you make what you make. And so even when you go, I want to sit back and drink some wine or drink a beer, they were artisans still crafting that together to figure out what's the best thing for you, and you take it for granted. And that's the sad thing for me about watching Americans who go, I don't need art in my life. Of course you do.
So I agree with all that, and we see that even in our business where it's more of there's a trade out for easy access, and it's much more consumer focused than it is about the history and the process behind whatever the product is, whether it's art or wine or textiles, whatever. So I do think that we're missing something here. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's, we don't do it. I mean, we got to go to the Nutcracker was like my first, when I was a kid, that was a field trip where we got to go to San Francisco, go to the Nutcracker, and like if you don't like the Nutcracker, I don't care if you don't like ballet or whatever, it's still something amazing to see.
Yes.
I mean, it's, so I think maybe we just don't have that opening up, but I also feel like post-COVID, there's a little bit of kind of a return to the live, I'll call it live entertainment.
Yeah.
Where you want that reality. You want that, I mean, even stand-up comedy. Whatever it is, like you're starting to see these movements and that are actually taking people out of this whole like, I'm gonna, sit in front of a TV. I want the experience along with the entertainment.
Yes.
It's not just that show and popcorn. It's like I want to be part of that scene.
Yeah.
I hope it does happen, and if that elevates, then dollars will elevate, and then maybe people can look at it like, hey, I can make a living doing this. So we were getting into your origin story. So Behringer drinking a slightly off dry wine and just enjoying the beauty of Napa Valley when it was purely really more of an agrarian community.
It was.
And then you decided to just follow that path. How did you migrate from that moment to becoming a master of wine?
Well, it took a while. It took a while. Yeah. So then my husband and I moved to Texas. We lived in West Texas for 2 years and then Houston for 10 years. He's a petroleum engineer, and I was working for Texas Instruments, Compact Computer, big companies in human resources. That's what my PhD is in human resource management.
Okay.
And I went to Texas Tech for my master's and Texas A&M for my PhD. And all the time we were in Texas, we just kept going to wine tastings. And especially in Houston, there were lots of restaurants that were doing incredible wine dinners at the time and wine shops that were doing wine classes. And then every vacation we'd go to, France or Italy or Spain and taste wine. In California, pretty much every year. We were always coming back to Napa and Sonoma. And then we started going to other parts of California as well, the Sierra Foothills and Paso Robles and, Monterey, all those wine areas. And so it just was a hobby for a really long time. And I have to admit, I read Wine Spectator religiously every single month. I waited for my magazine to come because there wasn't that much in those days to read, remember?
Yeah.
And I still love Wine Spectator to this day. And then finally, we moved to Colorado, got into the Colorado wine industry. That's another thing I like to do. I'm digressing, but I like to every year go to a different state to check out their wine industry because all 50 states have wine. So anyway, so then finally got this job in Sonoma State University in the year 2000. Came back to California, and I was so excited about the job because they wanted a PhD, human resource management with experience in industry. But then it said on the job announcement, plus has a background and interest in wine. And I was like, yes, that's me. That job has my name on it. And so when I got here, they asked me to teach the introduction to wine business class. And so I started taking all the classes at the junior college on viticulture so I can plant my hobby vineyard. And I took winemaking classes. I took weekend classes at UC Davis so I could make wine in my garage. And I still do all that. And
so you've been doing that for like 2 decades.
Yeah. Well, yeah, since I planted the vineyard in 2002, and then it took a couple of years for it to come online. And it's Pinot Noir. Because I live in the Petaluma Gap. It wasn't the Petaluma Gap, it was Sonoma Coast when I first moved there. But
that's right. That's when I first started working with fruit out there, and it was all Sonoma Coast. And then the Petaluma Gap was one of my favorite areas for Pinot.
Yeah, and I actually was on the committee that helped make that happen.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I'm still on the
Nice.
board as sort of an advisory member on the Petaluma Gap Wine
And
Growers Alliance.
you're making Pinot Noir and Rosé.
Uh-huh.
What's your split? How much of each do you make?
Well, for years we were just making like 2 or 3. I mean, it's a tiny vineyard. I have 120 vines. Each vine has a name.
I was going to ask.
And so I make about 100 and let's see. I make about 120 bottles every year. And
Okay.
I give half of it away and drink some of it.
So for everybody that's not
yeah.
a mathematician out there, that's 1 bottle per
Per
vine.
vine, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Thank
my
you.
vineyard is completely naturally organic. It's naturally regenerative because I've never tilled it because I don't have a tiller, and and I just use sulfur to spray for powdery mildew, and so it makes beautiful wine. I mean, Pinot Noir just loves Sonoma Coast, it loves Petaluma Gap, and it does well there. So I make about 2 cases. I was always making 2 cases of rosé and 10 cases of Pinot Noir,
Okay.
red. And then we just started discovering we just kept drinking all the rosé. The rosé would just, so I decided to make more rosé.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's usually how it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, the instant gratification of having a rosé.
Yeah, because the Pinot, to tell you the truth, my Pinot needs a couple of years to age. It really does. I've discovered when I go back and taste some of the older bottles, they're delicious.
So the farming aspect, since you understand the industry through and through, right? From, soil to marketplace.
Well, being an MW, you have to learn all that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Uh-huh.
But just I think that so many people don't understand the part of the industry involving farming, where you had mentioned all you use is sulfur. Maybe if you have like a thrip problem, you have to use stylet oil or something like that. But
I use the organic stylet oil.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So there are, I think people think that we're heavy into using like high grade chemicals and whatever else. And what I've always tried to stress to people is that not only is that, not worth doing, it's inefficient and very costly. But these chemical companies, if you just let them run the way they want to run, they'll just deliver you a spray program every 2 weeks. And it's like, I've seen that conventional farming method and it doesn't benefit the vineyard at all. And it makes it way more inefficient. It's like if you're reacting to a problem, then you're minimizing your passes, you're being more efficient, you're being more cost sensitive and whatnot. But I think a lot of people don't understand that. I think they just think that we're throwing everything we can at it to make this perfect fruit. And it's like, no, you actually want to just let it go
exactly
and develop on its own unless you have an issue and then you react.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's, And the French sort of call that lutte raisonnée. You use rational farming. You don't put anything on the vines unless there's a reason to do so. Yeah. And that's sort of what sustainability is about too. It's one aspect of it. But for years, my husband was, well, not for years, then I stopped him, but he was putting Roundup around the vines, and so we didn't have weeds. And then I went and worked in Burgundy for a semester, and I saw the way those vineyards were being farmed, and I just decided, I came home and I said, we're not doing Roundup anymore. And it didn't make, and now we have to weed eat, but it didn't make that much difference. Because I started thinking, we're drinking this wine, we're giving it to our friends and families. We just really want to I want it to be as natural as possible, especially after working in Burgundy. I lived right next to, I had a little house next to Domaine Romanée-Conti. So every day I would walk in those vineyards, those amazing vineyards.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was. And they're all biodynamic vineyards, but so I don't do biodynamics, but and what I discovered is the grapes are fine. They're fine.
Yeah.
And every few years I actually will buy some manure and put that around the vines, but they're pretty naturally, and they take care of themselves.
Well, vines are, if you're not trying to grow a vine, they're a very noxious weed.
Yeah.
Like they are hard to kill and get rid of.
They are.
They want to grow.